So the topic for today is related to becoming more proactive about your well-being. And it's really important in the current moment, as I'm sure all of us have been significantly challenged over the last couple of years about maintaining and keeping our well-being in a good place. Many of us have been restricted from the different ways that we would normally encourage and create well-being in our lives. A global pandemic has made all of us be in a situation where we've had to adjust the way we live, the way we work, the way we operate. And of course, it's changed the way that we have experienced the amount of stress and the amount of ways that we have about ameliorating that stress. So obviously, it's affected all of our well-being. And, as we look into another challenging year, we see this as a really good opportunity to think about, let's think about celebrating what we've done in the past, what we have created, what's been achieved in terms of well-being, and then what are some intentions that we might like to think about and set into the coming year. So, in the last couple of years, there have been quite a number of different ideas and models shared about well-being. A lot of them are around staying healthy and keeping ourselves well in different ways. One of the models which we really privilege and we think is really important because it's got a proper evidence base, it's been very well researched, is the PERMA model of well-being, which has been popularized and created by Dr. Martin Seligman, who's seen as the father of positive psychology. And Seligman has created this model as looking at primarily the 5 pillars of well-being. And he's done that, with a view that, the goal of all positive psychology is actually to look at what makes life really worth living, what helps us flourish, what helps us really thrive and enjoy our lives and bring out our best. And the PERMA model is an attempt to actually look at that. So PERMA stands for the 5 different ingredients of well-being in Seligman's model. The P is for positive emotions, so the amount of positive emotions that we have. The E refers to engagement, so how engaged or how much in flow we feel with our lives. The R refers to relationships, positive relationships that really enrich our well-being. M is for meaning, so the level of meaning that we feel we experience from our day-to-day living. And the A is for accomplishment. Sometimes people talk about it as achievements. And, they're important so that we can really support our sense of well-being in terms of the fact that we're moving forward at some level. We do know from Seligman's work that if we focus on these areas, it will develop and support the progression of people's well-being. Even if we just focus on one, it tends to support the other areas as well. So you might just focus on really building positive emotions into your life, but that'll actually really support all the other areas of well-being as well. The important thing is that there isn't a roadmap for this. It's got to be something that really works for you. So this is why it's important to think about different areas, these different 5 elements or pillars of well-being, in how it works for you. So what you've achieved or experienced as being really helpful in those different areas, and then set some intentions about how you'd like that to be into the future. The way it works for me may not be the way it works for you. So it's a very personalized model, in fact. And I think that makes it really interesting because it means you have to do something. You can't just pretend with the PERMA model. You actually have to put some things into action and follow through. The first pillar of PERMA, as Seligman describes it, is P for positive emotions. And for Seligman, he makes the distinction between just being happy or happiness and the idea of positive emotions. So in the PERMA model, we think about positive emotions as being joy and hope and compassion, love, appreciation and gratitude. which are more qualities and values that people experience, rather than being happy, which of course you can't be happy all the time. It's normal to have periods of up and down. But can we stay in contact with those ideas of positive emotions? And basically, positive emotions are a prime indicator of well-being. We know that they can be cultivated. We know that with attention and discipline, we can be looking and creating a sense of positive emotion from our experiences. It's been found that people who experience more positive emotions are well protected in terms of their health. We know that it supports them in their daily lives, and that they can even be thinking about their future life in a way that it encourages more positive emotions. So if we just are passive about it, then life kind of happens to us. But in PERMA, the idea that we can actually create the sense of positive emotion in our lives, and we can do that by both appreciating what we've done already, and actually think about how we'd like to experience more positive emotions as we move forward. So in the PERMA model, the second pillar is engagement. And Seligman explains or talks about engagement as feeling one with the music. Okay, now, so I feel really engaged with my life. I feel at one with what I'm experiencing. And this connects very closely to the Csikszentmihalyi's concept of being in flow. And being in flow means feeling like I'm at one with my present moment. I can be in right relationship with what I'm experiencing, and so that I can focus at the task at hand in a way where I almost lose contact with time and space. It's so involving, it's so engaging. And it's been found that people who really experience a sense of flow in their lives, or have developed activities and doing things where they feel in flow, are really well protected in terms of their well-being as well. So we know that people who are kind of really expressing their values in what they're doing seem to be more likely to be in that sense of flow and engagement. We also know that if you're really using your strengths or using your skills and being challenged to a certain level where you can really express those strengths in a positive way, that really helps you access that sense of flow. So again, we can think about, where am I already experiencing that sense of engagement and flow in my life? And then what are some of my intentions? What would I be able to do to actually support a bit more of that as we move forward? So the third pillar of the PERMA model is relationships. And in Seligman's model, or way of thinking about this, while of course, relationships are a part of all of our social interactions, in PERMA, it's particularly about positive relationships. And Seligman describes this as relationships where we feel really loved, where we feel supported and respected by the people that we're in relationship with. And the research around having more positive relationships in our lives is all good. Okay, so we know that positive relationships really support and build well-being. It's been really protective and helpful in terms of maintaining mental health. There have been studies to look at how positive relationships really support physical health, even maintaining or preventing cognitive decline. So as people age and get older, having good, positive, strong relationships really support people to stay healthy. We also know that you have to put time into your relationships to make them positive. They don't just happen on their own. So there is a task to actually nurture, to grow, to develop relationships in a way that they become more positive and therefore supportive of our well-being. So, again, we can think about what already exists. What positive relationships do I already have that I can continue to leverage and use to support my well-being? And what else could I create? So what are our intentions for really working with creating more positive relationships as we move forward? So the fourth pillar in the PERMA model is M, which is meaning. It stands for meaning. And Seligman talks about meaning as being around having a sense of belonging or serving something which is greater than ourselves. So with that in mind, you know, it is a completely intrinsic human quality to want to feel like our lives matter, that we have value, that our lives are worthy or worth something, if that makes sense. And people often link this to the idea of having a purpose in life. And while they're actually quite different concepts, having meaning is more in the day-to-day, and certainly purpose can be helpful if it gives meaning in the day-to-day. But in the PERMA model, it is more about meaning. So again, everyone connects with meaning in a different way. It could be that you do it through your work or through some sort of social cause that you care about. It could be around your spiritual or religious beliefs. It could be some sort of creative activity that really gives you a sense of meaning. And we find that in different ways, through groups or individually, or even as part of a volunteering or a social movement. So what we do know is that our sense of meaning is strongly guided by our personal values and expressing our personal values in what we do. So those people who tend to have a strong sense of meaning are able and seem to be able to, from the literature, really stay well and have a greater sense of well-being, even when they're under stress, even when they face difficulties and crises. So again, there are probably ways you're already creating meaning or getting in contact with meaning in your life, and it's great to think about that. And we can also think about what are some of our intentions, what are some of the small changes that you might make in order to enjoy more meaning, more of a sense of meaning to what you're doing and how you're being as you move forward. So the last pillar of the PERMA model is the A part, which stands for accomplishment. And sometimes people refer to this as achievement or developing a sense of competence. In Seligman's view, having a sense of accomplishment is the result of working towards something, to reaching your goals, or having the self-motivation to finish what you set out to do. So it's not necessarily about the achievement, but it's about feeling like that you've moved things forward at some level. So I feel accomplished because I've moved something forward. And this is really important for well-being, because we need to feel like we're progressing if we're going to feel good about our lives, so we can feel a sense of pride and achievement in ourselves. So, you know, the other thing we can share about this is that what seems to be more helpful for well-being are the intrinsic goals that we have for ourselves. So the developmental goals, the things like, you know, I want to experience more growth, or I want to experience more connection with people, is more well-being supportive than just achieving a goal for work, or, you know, just getting something done, or finishing a list. So that sense of actually really supporting your developmental goals really will help that sense of well-being around accomplishment. And the other important thing to share about it is that, particularly when we're in tough times, or in the complexity of a global pandemic, for example, small goals and small achievements are really important to keep abreast of and to keep noticing. So we can really engage with supporting our well-being by recognizing small movements forward we're making on an ongoing basis. So again, you can reflect back on what's been some of the accomplishments and achievements that you've already made in the last year, for example, and set some intentions for some of the ways that you want to focus on celebrating some of those accomplishments moving forward. In summing up then, the PERMA model really gives us some direct insight to the areas that we know will really support people in their sense of well-being. Now, well-being is a really subjective concept. It's got to be something that matters and means something to you. It's very personalized as an idea. So you have to do the work to think about what's going to support you to have more positive emotions, what's going to support you to feel more engaged, what's going to give you more of those positive relationships, what's going to help you develop more of a sense of meaning, and what can you do to feel in contact with that sense of accomplishment moving forward. And what we do know with PERMA is that all of those areas are great to focus on, but even if you just focus on one of those areas, it is likely to have an impact on the others, if that makes sense. So I guess moving on from now understanding PERMA, the idea is to think, well, how can I use this concept to actually really support my well-being as I move forward? One thing we'd love to share with you is a resource to help you do some thinking about that. So if you follow the link that's attached to this video, you'll see there's a series of questions for each of the stages, and even some suggestions about how you could use the stages or use the questions to both reflect on and appreciate areas where you're already experiencing the different elements of PERMA and therefore the different areas of your well-being, and some questions you can think through about how to really get the best intentions for yourself moving forward. You know, it is pretty tough for most people at the moment, and we really want to see people being able to have a way to actually support their well-being through following some of these methodologies and mechanisms. What we, as I said before, what we really value about the PERMA model is that it is evidence-based. We know that if you follow those areas and you look to make small improvements in those areas, it will have an impact for people and hopefully support you to really thrive and flourish and feel good and function really well in the coming year.